I'm trying to do this before I have to go to an event for work. So here we are. But for the whole month of April, the Lord has been dealing with me about forgiveness. Now, that's been one of the things that has been like really, really hard for me. But in my quiet time and just like stuff happening in life, like my grandfather passing away and that bringing up, different family dynamics with certain family members has really been checking me about forgiveness and how you're required to forgive. Like, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you, because forgiveness is the root of like all resentment, all hatred, envy, covetousness, jealousy. It's the root of it all. And if you don't deal with it, and if you don't lay it before the feet of God, like, it will literally eat you alive. So the thing that really got me, and I don't really have time right now, but I'll link it. I'll put it in the description about the scriptures that I'm talking about. But literally in Matthew, it says that if you harbor unforgiveness to someone and you think about praying, God's like, stop praying. Don't pray to me because I'm not going to hear you. You need to stop praying. You need to stop what you're doing. And you need to go handle that. Go reconcile that situation. Go forgive that person and then come back to me. And that really got me, because there have been plenty of times where, I'll just be transparent. Like, I have a absent parent. My father, I refer to him as Ghost, because most of my life he has not been present. And, just for reasons that I have no control over or anything like that. Like, that's been a situation to where I've really had to forgive that relationship and forgive my father for his inadequacy of just being a father. And, I used to be angry about it, but then God's like, we have all been unforgivable at some point in time. So much so that I had to die on the cross for unforgivable sins. And so the next question that I would have would be, okay, so, how many times am I supposed to forgive? Like, I did the whole Peter thing. Like, Peter, one of his disciples, is like, okay, God, so you're telling me to forgive, and to forgive people who are really hard to forgive and love. Like, okay, so how many times am I supposed to do that? Like 7, the number of completion, all that. And he's like, no, times that by 70. Period. Like, there is no restriction. Like, you are actively supposed to be seeking out forgiveness, and that's hard. Like, that's absolutely hard. And it is hard in your own right. It is hard without God, but it's something that we are required to do. And so God has been checking me for this whole month about that. But the more I started seeking God's face about it, and the more I started just really just being upfront and like, hey, this is hard, God started revealing to me about how forgiveness takes, you don't forget it, but you let that person off the hook so that way you can be free from that person. So that person no longer controls your emotions or anything like that. Because the only person that's supposed to have full control over our being is God. And when we harbor unforgiveness, we give essentially our power to another person. So, the best, I know for me, I was like, okay, so Lord, what does that look like? Like, I don't know what that looks like. And he brought me to the story of David and King Saul, and how David still was faithful and still had a heart of forgiveness for Saul, even though Saul was trying to kill him on multiple occasions. Like, he still honored him, he still respected him, he still moved in love and forgiveness for Saul. And from a normal person, or for someone who's in the world, like, That's crazy. But it's a day by day thing. And a lot of times I have to remind myself 70 times 7 when things do get hard, when people just do some outright stuff and I'm hurt to the core, but it's just like, okay, we're going to give this back to God, because when I come and I stand before God, I cannot use, well, this person did XYZ. But what did I tell you to do? Who do you have control over? You don't have control over this other person's actions, but you do have control over yourself. So, unpopular, but it's a maturity and growth thing. And you find that when you do actively seek to forgive people, you become softer, and you also reevaluate a lot of unforgivable traits or unlovable traits in yourself, and you're able to be empathetic and really be able to show God's love to other people, because he did it for us. So therefore we have to do it for others, especially if we call ourselves believers. So I'm just saying this because I know Mother's Day is coming up, Father's Day is coming up, and sometimes those holidays can bring up unwanted, uncomfortable feelings that are rooted in unforgiveness. And that's something that we have to be transparent and vulnerable with, and trust God that, hey, like, he's going to help us with that, and he will take the heavy burden that unforgiveness does do to us. So I don't know who that's for, but I know for me, I will be looking back on this, because again, I have to ask God, like, help me 70 times 7 to choose forgiveness, not choose pettiness, not choose resentment, not choose anger or jealousy or envy, but choose love and choose God. So